first article is regarding a debate. It's revealing that whether our priority for development is at the stake of environment. Fine. So this is the debate around environment versus development kind of thing, because we see that India has got a very poor ranking in the environmental performance index. See, in the last year we have somehow with our efforts, okay, we try to increase our rank in the world ease of doing business index, okay, but the recent environmental protection performance index has given a rank of around 177 to India, okay, and that is out of 180 countries, okay. So obviously it's a matter of concern now. And interestingly, the thing is that although we have enhanced our rank, improved our rank in the ease of doing business, but our rank in environmental performance index was quite good earlier. I mean, comparatively to this year, it was 141 in 2006, and now it's 177 in 2018. Okay, so the writer is saying that, okay. Mm, let me have it. Yeah, writer is saying that why we are, I mean, why this such a low rank for India, because we are trying hard to improve our environment as well, because this we can say, because we can see different sorts of government efforts in this direction. Okay, so what are these efforts and ambitious targets for, जैसे कि government in 2015, in December 2015, notified certain new strict environmental rules and standards for coal fired power plants. Fine, and that were to be effective from January 2018. Similarly, government announced that Bharat stage norms, which are basically regarding to the vehicular emissions, okay, so this Bharat stage norm we will implement directly stage number 6, and we will jump from stage number 4 to 6, and we will skip Bharat stage norm 5th, okay, and this will be from April 1 2020. Similarly, a roadmap was created where it was said by Ministry of Power and RE Energy, Renewable Energy, that only electric vehicles would be produced and sold in the country by 2030. See, the target is highly ambitious, highly ambitious, that only electric vehicles would be produced. Anyway, next, in this list only, under the National Solar Mission, government it enhanced the target. Earlier we were having a target of 20 gigawatts to produce solar capacity of 20 gigawatt, but now we are having 100 gigawatt by 2021 to 2022, and we should be proud of that. We are somewhat doing good on the solar front, okay, RE energy from the solar front. But apart from solar energy, on all these different fronts, we are not doing as we have promised, or we have chalked out certain plans. For example, with respect to this coal fire power plant, many of the, I mean, these rules are not being implemented right now. Many of the rules have been diluted. And regarding electric vehicles, the automobile industry, it made it clear that it is realistically not possible, and it will be possible only after 2047, that and only electric vehicles would be produced in the country and all. Fine. Similarly, it was there was direction given to the electronics manufacturers that the 30% of electronic waste, e-waste, they need to collect, okay, but it has also been reduced to 10% only. Clear? It's only 10%. And important thing is that last year the CAG, in a report, it pulled up the government for not developing an action plan for its poor utilization of allocation of funds in the clean Ganga mission. Actually, we have also said that we will, this clean Ganga, highly, which is highly polluted river, we will clean it by 2018. So CAG has somehow, pulled up government that what are you doing? Just make a plan for it. Okay. So the thing is this, that although we have made certain promises, we have announced certain policies, but we are not working on them properly, there is a gap. The article is saying that there is a gap, the gap between policy goals and between our actions. There is a gap. Okay, now next is that, okay, we get to know that we have a gap. Now the thing is that, should we ignore environmental degradation just being at a cost, just a cost of development? I mean, can we ignore environment just to have development? Definitely the answer is no, because many of the reports, they have made it clear that we have huge environmental cost on our GDP. I mean, if we are not focusing on environment, then it will cost us huge amount of GDP. Fine, and here certain sorts of reports and statistics are given. You can read that. And significant concern is also the fact that the poor are affected disproportionately because of environmental degradation. Because it's the poor people who will suffer more. Okay, so we have to think on that way. They're already suffering because of poverty. Fine, but then they also have to suffer because of the environmental degradation. So, the right price. Okay, what should be the right approach? See, we have to recognize the environmental cost of development, that we have to recognize that our development is at the stake of environment. Fine. So, is it the case that we should altogether stop development? No, it should not be the case, but we have to certainly balance it out. Okay, so the thing is that the failure, as I've told here, that we are not implementing the things right. Our action is not. The whatever the policies we are having, they're not action oriented. So the writer is saying the failure to implement these standards would be a step backwards. Fine, all these things. So of course it's not the case that the current environmental mess we are in entirely because of recent environmental policies. Earlier governments have also somewhat ignored the environmental cost of development. So obviously it's not possible to restore environmental quality overnight, but we must ensure that we are moving forwards, not backwards, in meeting our environmental targets, because it's a matter of concern that we are among the four worst nations in the environmental performance index, and it's high time that the government should take a note of it. Fine, so this article was about all these things. Next article is regarding state funding of elections, but mostly the major portion of the article is regarding the criticism of electoral bonds, that why electoral bonds, which were said to increase the transparency in the election process and all, funding of political parties and all, uh, they cannot be a tool for this transparency, rather they will increase the kind of nexus between the political parties and the corporates. So this is the theme of the article. Let's see. Zoya Hassan is a very renowned, this political thinker and writer. She writes a lot on Indian politics. Anyways, the article is not about Zoya Hassan. The thing is that, see, she's saying that Indian elections are the world's biggest exercise in democracy, but they are also among the most expensive. Fine. And American presidential जो elections हैं, they are the world's most expensive freedom, and Indian election expenses, they are just second to it. Next thing is that parties and candidates, they need large sums of money for voter mobilization, advertising, consulting, transport, propaganda, and printing of campaign materials to reach voters in their constituencies. Okay, and among all these things, corporate funding, okay, this is the main source of election funding in India. And it's said that corporate funding, many a times the corporates fund political parties in order to convert their black money into white. I mean, not to black money into white, but yes, just to spend their black money somehow. Okay, so it's said that which is awash with black money. Okay, with business and corporate donations to political parties commonly taking this form. Only in 2008, it with this using the provisions of RTI by the Central Information Commission, it allowed disclosure of income tax returns of political parties. Okay, only in 2008. Earlier the process was entirely closed. Okay, no sign of transparency, forget about accountability. So the thing is that best practices elsewhere, that India's privately funded election campaign stands in contrast to the trend in most of the countries where partial or full state funding is being done. Okay, so the thing is this at international level, but the concern for transparency in political funding is at complete odds with the electoral bond scheme notified by the government this month to clean election finance. Actually, government said that we are bringing the scheme of electoral bonds, and it will increase the transparency and it will try to wash out the use of black money and all in the election process. What's there in let's see what's with this electoral bond scheme. See, in this scheme, anybody can buy electoral bonds in the form of bearer bonds. Bonds are those bonds without your name, okay, without any sort of name. So anybody can buy electoral bonds in the form of bearer bonds from specified branches of the State Bank of India, and they can donate it any I'm sorry. So they can donate it anonymously. Am I pronouncing the word wrong? Oh my god, I'm not getting it right, sorry. To a political party of their choice. So a high level of anonymity is there regarding electoral bonds. You're not going to know that which corporate has given what amount of money to which political party. Only the bank is knowing that. Okay, no name is there because they are using the bearer bonds. Okay, next is that donors here, they continue to prize anonymity as they fear disclosure could invite converse consequences from political opponents. And the donors who are from the corporates, they actually prefer this anonymity because they think that if suppose the ruling party's opponent, they get to know that who has funded the ruling party, then the donor, he will be somehow in trouble when the opponent will be at the ruling stage. Okay, so this is the thing, because they wanted, they want to be on the both the sides. We are with you also, we are with you also, they don't want to reveal on whose sides they are. So this is the thing. So obviously donor, they prefer any oh my god, today I'm not able to pronounce this word. Anyway, leave this thing. Okay, next is that the most significant aspect of electoral bond scheme is that where it is gone, yeah, that it will not carry the name of the payee, as there is reluctance to do donate to parties through banking instruments. Fine, the same thing which I already told. And bonds will allow corporate houses to make anonymous donations, oh I pronounced it rightly, anonymous donations through banking channels to the party of their choice, as I told already. But the writer is saying that this would lead to further opacity in the funding process, and further okay, further increase the unaccounted cash in the electoral process and not the corporate control of politics. Means what the writer is saying, this the whole this process of electoral bonds, it's not only increasing the anonymity of the donor, but also it's making the entire process of elections quite opaque. Fine, and it's also not controlling the corporate control over the political party, because it has been seen that once a corporate has donated some sort of money to a political party, then when the party comes into power, then that party, it chalk out its policies in such a way so that that corporate get benefited. Okay, so this is like this. So okay, so the electoral bonds, they are not going to control the corporate control on the politics. The writer is saying this. Consequently, electoral bonds cannot address the problems that arise from the corporate control over politics and corporate capture of government policies and decisions. It's basically one and the same thing in this entire thing. Okay. Okay, now let's see what's next. Okay, again this, okay, the writer has mentioned three things which government has taken, yeah, here, three steps back. Actually, government has taken certain initiatives, and the motive of government was that we are bringing transparency and accountability in the election process and all. But the writer is saying it's not the case. It's not bringing transparency and accountability, rather it's taking us three steps back. How we can see how this happens, let's see. The first is that lifting of the maximum limit of 7.5% on the proportion of the profits a company can donate to a political party, thus opening up the possibility of shell companies. Means that, see, earlier there was a limit that a company can donate only 7.5% of the proportion of its profit. There was a cap basically on the amount that can be donated, but now the government has removed that cap. So it's very easy for companies, to open a shell company, and with that, easily, black money can be donated to the political parties. The first thing is this. Second thing is this, that government has done an amendment in the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, okay, FCRA, in which the foreign funding of to political parties, it has been opened up. Up till now, there was the foreign funding to political parties was not allowed, and now FCRA has allowed it. Third thing is that refusal of political parties to come under the RTI Act. Although Central Information Commission has time and again said that political parties, they do represent some sort of political public authority, so they should be under Right to Information Act, but political parties, they have time and again they have just neglected this, they have refused this. So these three steps, okay, removing the cap, this allowing the foreign contribution in this FCRA, and the refusal to be in the RTI Act, these steps are taking us three steps back in the process of making the entire election process transparent and accountable. Okay, and this will strengthen up the business and political nexus. See, so this existing pattern of political funding which we are having right now, which is private funding, it encourages lobbying and capture of the government by big donors. Okay, as I told earlier. Thus, a legitimate fear that policy decisions of political parties and politicians after being elected may be biased in favor of groups that fund them. Obviously, as I told that whosoever the corporate fund, whosoever the political party is being funded by the corporate, definitely that party is going to work for that corporate, okay, because they have to pay back. So this way, the hijacking of the political party, hijacking of the national agenda is done by the corporates. Okay, so this is the thing. Next, what we have in this, okay. However, the writer is, praising that the government's decision to reduce cash contribution from 20,000 to 2,000 is a step in the right direction, because up till now, what was there, that any contribution made by anyone above rupees 20,000, it needs to be, given in your income tax returns. Okay, the means political parties has to notify that and report that to election commission. But the thing is that now the government has reduced this limit even to 2000. Okay, so it will be very difficult, okay, because earlier what was there, that if suppose anyone is giving 1 lakh amount of money, and political party don't want to report this, that we are getting 1 lakh from someone, they used to mention that 1 lakh in 5 times. Okay, Mr. Sham has given this much, Mr. Ram has given this much, and all. So the net worth of that will not go beyond 20,000. So in this way, this division of money was being done. But the writer is saying that it can be done with the 2,000 rupees limit as well, but definitely the chances are not that much. I mean, little bit of transparency can come. Anyway, let's not criticize altogether. But this is the view of the article. Apart from that, what is there in the article? Yeah. Now, we are saying that corporate funding is there. We are saying that, I mean, a huge amount of expenditure is being done on campaigning and all, on elections. So what is the concern here? A major concern associated with the high cost of elections is that it prevents political parties and candidates with modest financial resources from being competitive in elections. Means because of this, okay, high expenditure on elections, it is not creating a level playing field for those political parties and for those politicians who have a modest financial background and cannot spend that much amount of money, or those politicians or political parties which are not having that backup of such huge corporates, or okay, such huge corporate funding. So definitely a level playing field is missed here. Now, uh, so the writer is saying that a number of government committees have outlined reform proposals to contain these negative effects of high cost of elections, and so many committees have basically suggested how to curb this high cost of elections, and certain provisions. I mean, certain proposals were strong disclosure norms, strict statutory limits on election expenses, that means there should be limit on election expenses, and ceiling on corporate donations to political parties. Fine. Apart from that, we have to look at the solution. So the writer is suggesting one of the solution as state funding of elections, which is a potential solution to this problem, and this was also suggested by Indrajit Gupta committee, which suggested partial funding, state funding of recognized political parties and their candidates, and it was suggested in 1998. But actually there was no political will, so no serious discussion was done on this particular matter. So okay, now the writer is saying that hold on, it's me. Okay, the writer is saying that based on the experience of countries that have total or partial state funding of elections, it will not be difficult to work out a formula that is both efficient and equitable to ensure that democracy works for everyone and not just for the wealthy. That my writer is saying that we should take note of this Indrajit Gupta committee suggesting partial state funding of elections, and we should also take note of the different international practices regarding partial or total state funding of elections, so that democracy is not hijacked only by the wealthy politicians or political parties, but it should have a level playing field for all. So this was about all these all the articles. Apart from these two articles, the other ones I don't feel that much important, so I have not covered them. Thank you.